All right, so we'll kick off today. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we kick off. So as per usual, everyone will be muted, so you will all be able to hear us, hopefully, but we will not be able to hear you. If you do have any questions during the course of the webinar today, if you could please click the Q&A in the menu bar, type your question in and click send. And then what we'll do is we will allocate a bit of time towards the end of the webinar today just to go through those questions and hopefully answer those for you. All right, so today presenting, our main presenter today is Tim Cincotta, who I'm sure a lot of you know and have spoken to already. So Tim's got quite an extensive background in the recruitment industry, recruitment technology. And currently has been with Navigo for about 18 months or so, and currently spends most of his time speaking to organisations about onboarding and offboarding. In fact, over 100 organisations a month. So he's very passionate about this topic and this area of HR. And also today I'll be looking after the MC duties. So I'm actually part of the Navigo workforce intelligence side of things. So I look after the org charting side of the business and basic workforce analytics. So we will cover off a little bit on that topic today too. So without further ado, I will now hand you over to Tim.
Thank you, Grant, and thanks for the intro and the little quiz there, and thanks everybody for participating. It's just a nice way to break the ice a little and obviously test out that Q&A section. So what we're going to start with today is I want to run a poll, and I like to ask questions before I go into any sort of presentation, just so I can sort of gauge where the audience's head is at. And what I want to cover off today is what do you find to be I guess the most common concern when you're offboarding an employee. Now, I deal with many customers or many businesses with regards to offboarding and onboarding. And these are the top 6 that I've come up with. So what I'm going to do is just launch this poll and throw it over to everybody to throw their answers up. And it gives me a good idea of where I should focus most attention today. So we'll give everybody about 30 seconds to go through and vote and see what we come back with. We've got a few through so far. Hopefully that's popped up on everybody's screen so they can throw an answer in. All right, we'll give everybody about another 10-15 seconds just to throw your vote on there. Fairly even at this stage. All right, yep, okay. I can see a couple of you can't see the poll. That's not a problem. Hopefully you should be able to see it soon. Fantastic. All right, so we'll end the poll there. Okay. So I'll just share the results. Didn't get too many answers, but let's see what we've got here. So recovering company assets, that's a fairly common one. I guess I would say the most popular from when I'm talking to people, and we'll definitely cover that off today. And creating a lasting impression, which is the second, and I'm glad to hear that. As Grant said before, my background is in recruitment, so I've always been about candidate and new employee experiences, and that really covers that off. So let's move on now to employee offboarding and how we can do this in 10 simple steps. Okay, and what we've done is we've put these steps together recently with HR on board. We've had a really strong focus internally on building an offboarding tool, as some of you may know, and we've put this together based off numerous conversations with many organisations, but also referenced quite a lot to Fair Work, just to make sure we're covering off legal compliance. And that's where we've sort of come up with this checklist and how we've put it together. So first steps first, communicate the departure. Okay, and this is quite an important step for a number of reasons. But letting the team know as soon as possible that an employee is moving on, which can either be through a group email or hold an informal meeting or a formal meeting where we take people aside to let them know. And that's if this is appropriate. The reason we want to do this is that we don't want rumours and gossip to start in the background. If it is feasible, let the organisation know as soon as possible, because it's better that they hear it from within rather than hearing it from external sources, whether that be the media or through a client base. If the employee deals with customers directly, it's also really important to let these customers know. Obviously, a lot of people have close relationships with account managers, and if they are moving, in particular if they're moving to a competitor, we want to make sure that that same relationship that they had one-on-one with the account transfers to the organisation. Okay? Transfer the exiting employee's knowledge to the successor. Okay? In an ideal scenario, your successor or the employer's successor will be starting before the departing employee goes, so that they can actually work together on a handover. In an even more perfect world, the person has been promoted from within or come from within to take over the role, so this is quite seamless. But as we know, not everything's perfect. Circumstances don't always allow this, and appropriate documentation needs to be set out and put in place so that we can have a seamless transfer of this information, and that can be done through a number of systems and a number of programs that are out there, but also just through good management of your own process. This is the one which we touched on before, which is the most common one that I come across, and clearly the most common for everybody out there, and that is recovering company assets. And as obvious as it seems, it's still a major problem for all organisations I deal with. Now, the biggest issue in most of these cases is that we have too many people collecting assets. One person for car, one person for phone, one person for laptop. The way that from speaking with organisations and a number of companies that have managed to sort this, the best way to do this is to hand this task over to one person, okay? As I mentioned, the biggest problem there, if we have too many people doing it, there's our problem. One person doing it, the onus falls on one person to collect everything and to catalogue everything that we've collected, okay? I've seen this myself. I've got a couple of bits and pieces from former employers which I have been meaning to return, but I was never tapped on the shoulder and asked to. It's no computers or phones or anything serious. It's more just charges and other bits and bobs. But still, it shows a good idea of how companies let these things slip under the radar and how much it can cost companies in the long run. Update your org charts and directory. Okay, so update your org chart manually or through your payroll or HRIS system. If you're a company that's lucky enough to use Org Plus or Planning at Work, which products that my colleague Grant here sells, you'll be able to do this automatically through your payroll system. As soon as payroll gets the notification and punches the details in, it'll update that in your directory and in your org chart. Otherwise, payroll needs to be notified so that they can do that manually for you. Check all collateral with staff members' details and ensure this is updated as well. And I go back to an example a few years ago where I was getting phone calls inquiring about a company that I used to work for because they hadn't taken my name off their website. Okay, and quite harmless there because I wasn't working for a competitor. But if I was working for a competitor and I've got a call saying, hey, I want to have a look at this product, it's business you can be losing just because we haven't taken that simple step. Okay. Another one that seems obvious, but is another one that I come across quite a lot, which does cause a lot of issue, is revoking systems access, and that's notifying IT of a departing employee straight away so that it's clear what we need to do. Okay, and I've had instances where I've talked with organisations recently where somebody was offered a competitor and still had access externally to their system for 3 months. Now, the issue there is that it's no clear-cut process as to who needs to notify IT. Okay, it's because offboarding is, again, doesn't have this checklist in place. Who notifies IT? Is it payroll? Is it the direct manager? Is it HR? Okay, and how do they go about notifying? There's no consistency in the message, and if there's no consistency and no process, occasionally things are going to get through the cracks. Completing the final pay process. Okay, so while payroll systems will typically have this process in, it's also important to notify payroll and processing, payroll in writing, I should say, sorry. Again, we go back to what we discussed on the previous slide about notifying IT. If there is no clear way to communicate with payroll, there will be issues. And again, I've spoken with organisations where people are still on the books and still getting paid for 3 or 4 weeks after they leave because payroll hasn't been notified in a timely manner to go through and finalise everything. And this will also lead to some other detail, which I'll cover off shortly with regards to forms and documentation for exiting employees. Perform an exit survey or interview. Now, this one is sort of up in the air. A lot of organisations are for this and a lot are against it for numerous reasons. I'm all for it. And the big reason for this is that a departing employee will have a lot more to say than a current employee about working conditions. They're not about protecting their scalp anymore. They're not working for the organisation anymore. And you will find out quite a lot more from them, okay? And what it can do is uncover issues that may be underlying and may be affecting current employees. Okay, keep the questions short and direct. Exiting employees are not obligated to carry out or to complete an exit survey, so we want to make it as simple as possible for them. Okay, but at the same time, we want to get some valuable information out of it. Okay, providing letters of reference and other exiting documentation. So legally, you are required to provide, obviously, final pay information, certificate of service, and separation certificate and contracts if requested. Okay. Again, this is detail that will need to go through to payroll and be part of the final pay process. But again, it can be quite tricky if we don't have proper processes in place, and can be quite messy if we need to chase this up from several different avenues. Okay. So if we have a simple system and simple process in place to do this all in one hit, which I'll obviously show something shortly, it does make life a lot easier here. Thank the exiting employee, okay? If an employee is leaving on good terms, ensure they feel appreciated, all right? Now, you never know what this leads to in the future. They may end up being a future customer, partner, supplier, or employee. Or better yet, they may be a great source of referrals for future candidates, okay? Your employment brand is really built around your current employees, and that also goes for your past employees. If you have an employee leave on bad terms, they will let other people know about that, and that could hurt you when you're trying to hire people from within the industry. Okay, so make sure they feel appreciated. And one way to do this and keep them engaged is to start an alumni group. Alumni groups don't have to be anything too formal or too organised. A simple group on LinkedIn is a great source of that. And I'm a member of a LinkedIn group, which is an alumni for a recruitment agency I used to work for. But it's a great source of information with where that company is headed, how they're moving forward. And again, you know, when they post roles where I know people would be interested, I remember working for them and I know they're a great organisation, so I'll share that with my network, okay? But they haven't had to go about building a massive alumni network in order to do this. It was a really simple process for them. So that's something well worth investigating if you don't have it already in place. So now that we've gone through all of that and gone through a checklist, obviously we have an offboarding process that we've built within HR on board that can handle a lot of this. And that's what I want to take you through today. I'm only going to take you through a very quick demonstration today because I know most of you are either at lunch or keen to get off the lunch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as Rick. If anybody's had a demonstration of HR on board before, they'll know that Rick is our HR assistant that processes all of our onboards and offboards within HR on board. Now, when we log in here, you'll see now that we have an onboard and offboard under event type, and when we click create, we can go onboard or offboard. Okay, so organisations are using us for both. Now, in the interest of saving time, again, I've prepared one earlier, so we're going to offboard Grant Cumming. He's done such a great job as the MC today. We'll give him another job. So we can see there are a few different details. So Grant is leaving for a resignation to pursue a career in music. For those who don't know, Grant is a fabulous drummer and he actually plays in a few rock bands throughout Melbourne. So he's going to take that and progress that career. Grant is currently our business development workforce intelligence. Okay, as we scroll through, we can see that I've put in all of the details, including Grant's address. That's the Navigo office address. HR on board office address, not Grant's actual real address, don't worry. And date of birth will make Grant 25, and let's just say Grant's been with us for 2 years. Does Grant require a separation certificate? If he's going to pursue a career in music, I dare say he will. Certificate of service required, and he's ending in 2 weeks' time, and he's given us this notice. The person who'll be writing the letter will be Rick. What we've also got there, as you can see, is a little personal note, okay? And this is something that we'll show for Grant when he's leaving the organisation. Now, I've just made this pretty short and simple, but again, it's to show our appreciation and to thank the departing employee. Thanks, Grant, for all the hard work and good luck in the future, okay? Obviously, we've made it short in the interest of saving time, but line managers can go through in a bit more detail. As we scroll through, we can now upload Grant's resignation letter, which is kindly supplied to us. So let's go through here. I will actually put one through for John Smith, sorry. We'll just pretend that's Grant's. And as that loads up, we can also see there that we've got his exit pack, including separation certificate, which is now partially filled, and a certificate of service, which has also been partially filled. What we want to do now is we want to send this to payroll, okay, so that we can notify payroll to get the process moving at this end. Once we hit send to payroll, we'll confirm this, okay. Rick has done his part, and that's gone through to Betty Jones, who's our payroll manager here with HR on board. So we're going to log off now as Rick, and if we go in here, we'll see now, we'll see now that we've got an email which has been sent through to payroll automatically, okay. So this handles that simple process of getting payroll informed. Payroll will be able to go through, select their username, go with their exit pack, yeah, I'll come to that. We'll just put in Betty's details here, so just bear with me for a moment. And as Betty logs in here, we can see here Grant's offboarding details. So reason for leaving, we can see now Grant to pursue a career in music. Personal details, yep, we're okay with that. If we want to reject and send that back to HR for whatever reason, we can do that. But again, in the interest of moving forward, we'll continue. Now, with payroll, we need to go through and fill out this detail. Has a claim been made, or is there a claim likely to be made for workers' compensation? We'll say no. What is the person's final gross payment? So we'll say with Grant, I'll just make up $1,500. Did you pay in the last 12 months, or will you be paying person leave entitlements and so forth? If we click yes, we'll be able to fill out this detail. And what this is going to do is populate that into a separation certificate. I won't go through that now, again, just in the interest of saving time. But again, with all of this, if anybody is interested in seeing more detail, we can talk after. And again, in the last 12 months, did they cash any leave entitlements? We'll click no there. What we can also do is we can upload a copy of the final payslip. So we'll go here and load this up. And once this is loaded, we'll be able to save and continue. So just take a moment because it's a picture document, so it's a bit bigger. All right, beautiful. So we can go through and we can actually review each of these documents before we send this off to Grant, okay? Once we've done all of this, we'll click approve. We sure this is correct? Yep, we're happy with that. Okay, so Grant now will receive a notification via text and via email that he can go in and download all of that paperwork. I won't go into the exiting employee side of things because that takes a little more detail, but again, if anybody wants to see more, I can talk to them at a later stage. What I want to show you here, though, is 2 emails that have been sent out. The first email is to payroll, to IT, okay? Now, this is an email we can select to go wherever within IT. Typically, it would be a group email to IT, and you can change the content that would go in here as well to make it a little more detailed. But obviously, we've said here, dear IT, please commence the offboarding process for Grant. The trigger point we've used for this is payroll has processed everything and said, yep, that's fine, Grant can go. Okay. The other email that we will receive is one that will go to Rick. Okay, but again, we might want to trigger this to the line manager. Okay, and this might be a trigger point for the line manager to go off and inform the rest of the team, or this can go out to a group as a notification. Okay, it's up to you as to where you'd like that to go. Okay, another point that we didn't cover in there is internal reviewing and recovery of assets. There's actually a step within HR on board where we can actually record what assets have been collected and who needs to collect them as well. But again, that's in a more detailed demonstration that we can take people through at a later stage if they like. One other stage that's included as part of the employees exiting is an exit interview. When they go in to download their forms, they can actually complete a few questions which have been set up. But again, in the interest of saving time, I won't go through that particular stage today. So that's just a very quick look at what HR Offboard can do for you. Well, HR Onboard's offboarding module, I should say. So what I wanted to go through today was a few key takeaways from what we've gone over today. And that's that offboarding is very important, and if not, then, well, can be very costly. Not just from a compliance issue with Fair Work and legal compliance, but also from a future candidate, from future business, and also from, obviously, asset collection, which is probably the one which costs the most, which we're most aware of because it's quite a tangible item that we can assess and see now. Employee branding is still important to former employees, okay? If an employee leaves with a sour taste in their mouth, and especially in an industry which people tend to work within, so, for instance, if I left an organisation within HR tech or with a bad taste in my mouth, it's not going to go well for other HR tech companies. And you'll probably know yourselves from your personal experience, organisations that you may have left in the past where you thought, you know what, I didn't leave on good terms there and I wouldn't recommend them going forward and I wouldn't do business with them again in future. But if you have left on good terms, how much value does that have on that particular business? And the last step there, which is pretty obvious from all of this, make your own offboarding checklist. It may be as simple as putting a process in place in your own internal systems that people need to tick off on, but also it may be as simple as using a product such as HR Onboard to do your offboarding process. Okay, so that's what we've gone through today. That's what we've gone through today. If anybody has any further questions with regards to HR Onboard or our offboarding product, as I mentioned before, we've only gone through a little bit of detail there. I'm more than happy to take people through in greater detail in a more one-on-one demonstration. What I want to do now, though, is I want to throw it open to questions. If anybody has any questions with regards to their current offboarding process or what they saw with HR Onboard, we'll throw it out there for everybody to go. If you click on the Q&A tab and get stuck in.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Tim. We've got one question already from Mel. So she writes, we always find exit surveys out, but very little. Sorry, we always send exit surveys out, but very little are returned. I find that employees are also very reluctant to do them face to face. What are some strategies to encourage a higher return rates? And that's for the exit surveys.
Yeah, that's a good question, Mel. And I'll talk about what we do within HR Onboard to address that, because it's something that as we were developing that product, people did say. So one step that we've put within HR Onboard, and I'm not sure if you can do this into your manual process, is that within HR Onboard, when a employee or leaving and exiting employee logs into the system to access their final pay slip and separation certificate and so forth, in order to access that part of the system, they actually need to complete the exit survey and go through and answer some simple questions. Click OK, and then a screen will pop up which actually has all of that detail there for them to access. The other thing which I got at before is make it simple and easily accessible for the exiting employee. Exiting employees can feel awkward about it, so that face-to-face can be tough for them because they might not feel comfortable coming forward, whereas if it's online and an environment where they have something to gain from doing it, you might find that they're a little more open about what they have to say. Thanks for the question, Mel. I've got another question here with regards to the onboarding tool, which is the choosing where the content for emails goes, such as the IT and payroll, and the information that goes in there. Yes, with HR Onboard, all emails go wherever you need them to be sent. What we do is we'd actually set that up to be processed how it needs to be. In some instances, payroll may not be the people who take care of doing the final pay for whatever reason, so we can change where that goes. Kelly Allison. Hi, Kelly. How are you? Hope you're doing well there over in Perth. Does the exit survey collate the results in a summary format to use for reporting? No, our exit survey within our system is quite basic, and we try and keep it simple for the simple case if we want a higher return rate. We do have, and I have spoken to organisations that have used a tool such as SurveyMonkey, where they can do more detailed reporting, and that's a tool that's really designed to do that for you. And you can, if you are to use an offboarding tool, you can simply do a link out from HR Offboard in order to do that particular survey. I hope that helps.
Jim just asked a question too. Is there a step in the offboarding process in HR Onboard that allows managers to indicate whether the position should be recruited for, or is this a completely separate step?
That's a good question. No, there isn't in the offboarding process. We try and keep offboarding on track with the simple offboarding step. But you may have your recruitment or requisition process set up with your e-recruitment product that can automatically trigger that. It's a pretty complex step that's not in our offboarding tool at this stage.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Tim. Actually, we've got one last-minute one from Kelly again. How does the system work with multiple locations? We will be having sites interstate shortly, so collating the items can't be completed by the one source.
Yes, thank you, Kelly. Much like with your onboarding solution that you're using there, Kelly, we can have multiple people with access to put together offboards and onboards. So it's just a matter of creating simple logins and profiles for different users as to what they need to do and how they need to go about it. I think we've got one more there.
Yeah, we do have one more. So this will be the last one too, guys. So thank you very much for all the questions. Liz Turner asks, in regards to collecting company assets, does HR Onboard manage this process pre or post final payment?
Hi, Liz. Hope you're doing well there at South Bank today. Yeah, Liz, it's a part of the process that we put in before anything actually gets sent to payroll, so that the line manager actually has to acknowledge what needs to be collected. As with our onboarding tool, we can be flexible about how organisations do it, but typically that's where most organisations will work that step now. As part of a review stage where a line manager will need to go in, actually approve the offboard and make note of what assets need to be collected and acknowledge that before it is sent to payroll to do their final part of the processing. Okay.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating today. There will be a recording made available very soon, which we will send all attendees and for anyone who has registered who couldn't make it today. Also, too, if you do have any further questions or queries, Tim's details are currently on the screen at the moment, so please take a note of those and feel free to give Tim send Tim a call, or call Tim or send him an email if you would like further information. Thanks again, guys, and I hope you all have a lovely day.